Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and you know what? We got a good one for you today. Today, we actually talk with one of my favorites, someone that I've been hoping to get on the podcast for a while, Cliff Gray. Cliff is one of actually a couple people that committed to come on the podcast and then got on the Joe Rogan show. And of course, at that point, their life gets a little too busy, and it's hard to get in touch with those folks. But Cliff made time, and he did not disappoint. Today, he tells us only one story, but it's one of the most memorable stories I've heard since I've been doing this podcast. So I want to say thank you to Cliff for coming on. Thank you guys, of course, the listeners for tuning in. Let's just jump right in and let Cliff tell stories. All right, Cliff, welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast, brother. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I'm honored to have you here. I was telling you before the podcast, I've been a fan for a long time. When I first started researching hunting, I was like, I should probably know what these things eat, and I bet if I hang out near where they eat, I will find elk. And your video showed up, and I've been following you ever since. It's been like, I don't know, three years, 3.5 years, or something like that. So I'm excited to have you on the podcast. And I'll be honest, I was a little worried that you wouldn't make it because I've gotten, I think, 3 or 4 people committed to be on my podcast, and then Joe Rogan stole them as a guest. And then you're the only one I've actually been able to really get in touch with after they've been on the Joe Rogan show. So I appreciate you, Cliff, for following up with me and jumping on the show.
Yeah. No, of course, man. I'm glad I finally made it on. I always like talking to people and getting on these podcasts. And it sounds like you kind of got it's intriguing, man. Like one that's based on stories is kind of fun. I feel like I touch on them in on different podcasts, but that's never the center of the discussion. So we should have some fun, man.
Yeah. Usually people have some kind of lesson to learn, and that's not required here. You know, if you just want to tell me a story about, I'm trying to draw a blank on who it was. The guy who runs the Gladiators Unleashed podcast. He's telling a story. He's full draw on a bull elk, and he craps himself. Like, still, there's nothing to learn from that other than maybe empty your gut before you go out into hunt. But
that's impressive. And I'm trying to think of his name too. I don't
it's
know him personally.
Luke Cadillo. I remembered it as I was telling it. But yeah, man, it's a funny episode. And we're not talking about like, a nice little package in his underpants. We're talking he filled his boots. So if you haven't listened to his episode, to the listeners, please do. We're getting off track though, Cliff. Why don't we start this thing off by letting you introduce yourself so that people know who they're hearing stories from, man.
Yeah. No problem, man. I'll be fairly brief. Right now I'm sitting in Puerto Rico. Nowadays I spend about half my time in Puerto Rico, half my time back in the States, some of that in Oregon, some of that in Colorado. I still get looped back into guiding for most of fall, but really the last decade to 13 years of my life, until the last 18 months, I was a commercial outfitter for the majority of that time. Most of it was wilderness horseback stuff. The primary area was in the flat tops of Colorado, and that's what I've been doing for the last, I don't know, 10-12 years, and focused on that. And now I'm like, I tell everybody I'm in like a mini retirement, but I've got a couple other things that I've been kind of chugging along on. I've got some other passions that keep me down here. I'm secretly an obsessive spear fisherman that sucks at it. So that's one of my current endeavors. And I would say, I mean, I could, go into details of whatever part of that, the outfitting or the hunting world and all of that. But I think that might be where I'd end the bio, is that one of my problems in life is that I get these obsessions, right? It's elk hunting, mule deer hunting, bear hunting, spear fishing. I like I tell people that I guess I inadvertently am trying to live like Hemingway, but I'm gonna try to avoid all the woman problems and the suicide deal.
Good luck.
I think I'm good on all that front. But other than that, I've got his other problems in terms of obsession with all these outdoor activities. But yeah, man, that's me.
Yeah, well, your obsession makes you an expert in some of those things, and so I appreciate you. Make sure you check out Cliff on YouTube. I don't know if there's other places that you want to direct them, but I love your YouTube videos. Like I said, I've been watching them a long time, and I guess we can get more into that at the end when we run out of time. I know we have limited time, so let's just jump into this thing, man. Cliff, why don't you set the stage? You're here to tell some stories. Where are we in this first story, man?
Yeah. So, I was actually thinking about it because I'm gonna run back to Colorado here in a couple weeks as the big games is fourth rifle season closes up and go lion hunting with some buddies. And
Nice.
it's funny, Mike, because a lot of my like at least most entertaining hunting stories to me are lion hunting stories. And
Yeah.
have you ever hunted them before?
No, it's high on my list, but I haven't gotten around to it. I'm worried by the time I finally do, it'll be illegal everywhere.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that might be a reality, but I've got faith that we've got some time, man. But
Yeah.
I've hunted a fair amount over the years, but I would say I don't know, when I was outfitting, like 3 or 4 years into outfitting, I got just exhausted with elk and deer hunting. I should say exhausted, but anytime you go through a season and really you're at it for 100 days, right? Because you start putting your camps in August, and then you're not really done until Thanksgiving is pretty
Yeah.
much like your primary season. And then you got like a trickle of other stuff you do in late season cow hunts or whatever. But you get seasonally burnout. That's what I would say. I'd say like my recommendation to any guide or outfitter, as long as you can keep it to being just seasonally burnout, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You don't want to hate hunting, because I think if you run your business a certain way, or you pursue the career a certain way, you'll end up hating hunting. But you're for sure
I
going to
can see
end up
that.
getting burnout at the end of the season. So lion hunting over time, I think because it's so much different than a lot of the other big game hunting, it actually became like my primary hunting passion. And I the thing is like, so once we closed up there around Thanksgiving, end of November, I could look forward to lion hunting, because the other big part of it is I didn't do it commercially, and there's a whole
Yeah.
bunch of reasons why I chose not to pursue that. So it was like my fun hunting, right?
Yeah.
And
Now, real quick,
and
archery or rifle typically when you go hunting lions?
so I've always done it with pistols or
Okay.
rifles. And the thing about lion hunting, Michael, is like, I shouldn't say always. I've never killed one with a bow. I've been with guys that have killed one with bows, and to me, the weapon and the killing part of lion hunting, it's like inconsequential, right?
Okay.
I mean, people can say that about, elk hunting or mule deer hunting or whatever, but there's the dynamic of archery versus rifle, the actual component of harvesting the animal, letting go of that arrow, pulling that trigger, like it's an important component of the hunt,
Absolutely.
right? Lion
Yeah.
hunt, it's really not. I mean, I think you could ethically, morally, no problem, take somebody who's shot a gun one time, or who can shoot their bow consistently, on a target this big at 15 yards. You could take them and you could kill a lion and no problem, right? So that
Okay.
gives you an
Gotcha.
idea of like, it doesn't really matter. Um, Here, dude, you're gonna quickly see that if you ask questions, I'm gonna go off on these.
Quit
But
teaching stuff,
no,
Cliff.
no,
Just
no,
stick
no,
to the
no.
story.
You're good. I think I find it interesting, and I just like nerd out on shit. So
No, I love it. I
so
love it.
you might have to guide me back onto the story, man. But yeah, no, the weapon deal, whatever. But the lion hunting is really interesting in the sense that there's a couple big components of it that are, much more substantial in it, where they're less so in lots of other hunting. One, obviously the dog component, right? I've always been a dog guy. Like when
Yeah.
I waterfowl hunted as a kid, I mean like a 12, 13-year-old kid, it really wasn't about shooting ducks. It was about having my lab with me, that component of it. So I've always been, into dogs, into training dogs, that sort of thing. And so I appreciate that part of lion hunting. And one of the and this will play into this story a little bit. Whenever I hear people talk about lion hunting in the context of it being brutal towards dogs, I find it laughable, because if you have been there, you realize that these dogs, that's all they want to do. Like
Yeah.
their happy
Live for it.
place, yeah, their happy place is imagining that they're going to kill that lion. That's the hounds, that kind of dog hunting. Hounds are convinced they can kill a mountain lion.
Yeah.
which in itself is has like it's kind of hilarious, right? Like it's not like people think, oh, they want to run them up a tree. No, 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 they don't want to run them up a tree. They want to get in a fight with them. The end result, due to a bunch of mechanics of lion hunting, it tends to be that they do end up in a tree. They end up in a cave, like we'll talk about in the story. But the
Yeah.
dogs love it, and same
Yeah.
thing with waterfowl dogs, whatever. They really love it. So to me, to view it as like there's this ethical dilemma about the brutality towards the dogs. I mean, it would be worse if you had them in your house. Probably the
Right.
most fucked up thing is to have like that kind of dog living in an apartment or something, right?
Yeah, I had another guest who he all of he was he's a dog trainer out of Florida, and all
Okay.
he talks about is dogs in all of his stories. And he had one where he was training a dog, and she just loved it so much. And she took a spill training one day and
Yeah.
broke both of her back legs,
Ooh.
and she was still just trying to retrieve. Like it's all they want to
Oh
do. Like
yeah.
she was like, yeah, she was in pain, but she was still happy. She crawled herself over to that like little toy duck they were training with, and
Yeah.
got the
Yeah.
job done, and she couldn't have been happier. That being said, her days were done as a real waterfowl dog, but like they just love it. It's in their blood. So I
Yeah.
understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. And I think it's I mean, it sounds like you got a really good understanding of it. I think until somebody's been exposed to that with dogs, they don't realize like this obsession they can develop. I'll talk to guys about dogs that are totally unrelated fields, defense dogs, that sort of thing, and it's the same deal. Like the people like
Yeah,
that who interact with dogs, they know immediately like, oh yeah, like they know how a dog's brain works. And I don't think it's specific to a dog, but dogs are real trainable in terms of the species. So,
yeah,
and I also think there's like a lot of genetic manipulation with hounds or waterfowl dogs or defense dogs or whatever, where it comes out like if they don't enjoy it, that those genetics have vanished, right? So you've got like years of these dogs that really enjoy it. But anyways, so back to lion hunting. It was like typical year. We had in if you get really lucky, or if I would get really lucky, I would be ready to wind up shop, close down my fourth season hunts. A lot of times we were just mule deer hunting, so it was pretty low key. And then we'd get some snow, like right at the end of fourth rifle season. And then like in the next 3 or 4 days, I'd be out with my buddies lion hunting. That's like the
yeah,
perfect situation. So this year, perfect situation, right when I wound up, fresh snow, and within 48 hours, I was out looking for tracks. And sometimes, I'd still have horses up my lodge and mules. So I'd go out, look for them on mules, or I just, there's roads in and out of there. And I go out like the first morning of closing up shop, and I go from my lodge, like, I don't know, maybe 500 yards from it. And I cut a lion track, like, like fresh in the snow, like smoking hot, like probably could have walked it out. Right.
that's
So
awesome.
I call my buddy in town, and that's another thing about lion hunting, dude. Like that's what it's all about, right? Is the tracking component. That's the I actually mentioned there's two things: the dog thing and the tracking thing. Tracking
Yeah,
is all where it's all at, where like that's the whole deal. And I mean tracking in the sense that like you're gonna know like you get a feel for like how those lions hunt, so you know where to look for tracks, you know how they move through country. So a lot of lion hunters, if they really get into lion hunting, they really develop that skill. And it's kind of interesting because it transfers over to a lot of other hunting. But
yeah,
anyways, I found like this is like a special thing, like a smoking fresh track in perfect snow, good to go. So I call my buddy up, and he kind of knows the area we've hunted a lot. In this particular area, because it was so close, I had never hunted lions in that area.
oh,
Just
interesting.
I just
Makes sense,
never,
right?
yeah, never had crossed tracks or whatever. And I remember the first thing he said to me, he's like, "Yeah, man, have you been up there?" And it's in this canyon. And he's like, "Have you been up there?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, dude. Like I've been all over that shit." Like, and he's like, "There's no caves in there, is there?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't think so." And what is it's like really tight canyon, and it's a bunch of cedars and stuff on top, and it goes up into the alpine, goes
Okay.
up into the wilderness area. So I covered all that country up there, and it's just it's conifer, it's cedars, conifers, aspens. Like that's where I'm thinking this lion's going. No, no, no caves, man. come on out. So he brings some dogs out from town. He's there like within 45 minutes. And again, he asked me, he's like, Cliff, is there any caves, dude? Like, are you sure there's not any caves? And I'm like, no, I'm 100% sure, 99% sure, right? At this point, no caves.
Yeah.
So, all
I want
right.
to ask, is there a reason why he keeps asking, or am I going to ruin the
Yeah.
story by
No,
asking that
no.
question?
Mm-mm. You're not gonna ruin it. It's probably good to fill people in.
Okay.
The problem with caves with lions is just like it's back to what I mentioned about the dogs. Like these dogs want to get a hold of the cat if they can. So in the hope of not getting dogs damaged, you really want to tree lions in trees. You don't want to tree them in caves
Yeah.
because the problem with caves is that the lion's stuck, but the dogs have direct access to the
Yeah.
lion, right? So they're going to
Gotcha.
try to get a hold of it. They're going to try to fight it. It puts the risk of the dogs way up
Okay.
if they're in caves.
That makes sense.
So generally, you don't want to turn out dogs on a lion that you think is high probability going to end up in a cave. You know, if like rocky outcroppings, you see a lot of these really cool videos on Instagram and stuff where these cats are stuck on rocky outcroppings where the dogs can get to them, but the guys can't get to them. Believe me, like if you're there, there's an intense level of stress amongst whoever is managing those dogs is stressed because he doesn't want his dogs to get hurt at all,
Yeah.
you know. And so he's like, these are always very hairy situations. I think I see those videos in a certain perspective because I'm like, wow, they're awesome, right? Like you know that everybody's heart's just like bumping. But the guy who's trying to take care of his dogs has like a next level stress in a cave,
I'm
rocky
sure, man.
outcropping,
Can't even
because
imagine.
eventually the cat's gonna try to get a hold of the dog. And it's crazy how they get them, Michael. If you watch lions, like they slap and they have a dew claw like down low on them, like down here, and it hang. It's like flopping. When you skin a lion, you're like, what is that thing for? But if you've ever seen them, if dogs get close to them, what they do is they generally will hold their mouth back and they'll slap with that dew claw or their lower paw, and they do a pulling action, like they pull like
Yeah.
this. And what they want to do is they want to pull and then they want to get their jaws on the dog because
Got
that's
it.
where they have
God,
like a
that's
lot of,
terrifying.
yeah, they have a lot of strength. Yeah, man, it is terrifying. You know, there's videos of these of guys, you know, or you know, into you know people who are interacting with them, and you can tell like the lion's pissed. There's like this one where the guy's backing up on a road. I don't know if you've seen it, and that lion's doing the same thing. He's slapping like he's like this, and believe me, if that guy got close enough to him, that's what the lion's thinking is I'm going to slap this guy and get a hold of him and bring him down. And they got like forearms, like a,
Yeah.
you know,
Bigger than
not
my
like,
thigh. Yeah.
yeah, they got really strong forearms. Like, and it's crazy when you skin them, like the tendons and the muscle mass in the forearm.
I
It's
bet,
not
man.
like an elk or deer. You're not gonna like, you know, touch it with your knife and then snap it or whatever. That's not how a lion's built, right? They're built to get a hold of stuff, pull it down, get their mouth on it. And so,
Got it.
anyways, that's why, because you know, we don't want to end up in these caves. So, anyways, he asked me again, get all the dogs collared up. We got their GPS collars on, all of that. We're like ready for a day, right? Because this is like open country. No. And the other thing is there's no roads, right? So yeah, I got the one road I'm on, and then you know where the lion's gone, and then wilderness. And the trick to that is like a lot of like strategically when you're lion hunting, if you cut a track, really regardless of how fresh it is, unless you like saw the lion, you got like some really weird situation,
Yeah.
you want to check the next road, right? Because you don't want to turn out here and then, you know, 2 miles through an area, the lion's actually crossed another road. What you want to do is go hit that other road or hit that other trail on horseback or whatever and see if that lion's crossed. Right. In snow, it's easy because you
Yeah.
can cover. I mean, you can go hit the trail, go hit the other road and be like, hey, like I know you got the fresh track over there, but we got the same lion crossing here. Let's turn out here. Because then your dogs stay, you know, your dogs don't get worn out, you're tracking them, and then you got more time, right? Because
Yeah.
time is always like an issue with lion hunting. Most guys want to wind it up, you know, early afternoon because you really don't want to be in the dark trying to find your dogs. Like just logistically, it could be a freaking nightmare, you know?
Got it, man. That makes sense.
But in this case, we didn't have an option because it was like wilderness, you know, like the next road was 15 miles away. So, or national forest or whatever, but no road access. So we call them up. We got the whole day, you know, and we're like geared up to go for a long distance, or at least see where the, you know, we're assuming they're going to hit the trail, go a couple miles. We'll be able to get up into the plateau, start following the dogs, whatever. So we got all of our stuff, and there's a lot of snow. Like we had a lot of snow. Like, I mean, we had fresh snow on the road, but the road had been plowed. It's probably like this deep, but the actual like snowpack was probably, I don't know, like thigh deep. So it's pretty deep. So
that's hard on the hips, man.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Hard on the hips.
Yeah, and climbing out of it too, right? Like post holing, you know,
yeah,
is brutal. So anyways, we call them up, get them going. We let them out, and I swear, like we go to get our packs and just kind of get our stuff, you know, the last throw on your packs and start slowly trailing the dog type of deal. And boom, the dog's treed. And really the term tree means like they just bunched up and they're like on something, right?
Yeah.
Within like 5 minutes. And again, my buddy looks at me and he's like, Cliff, is there any caves? And at that point I was like, I'm 55% sure there's no caves at this point, because I'm like, all I know is that if they treed that quick, they didn't get to any trees. So like, I don't know, they either found like one little cedar and this lion's like hanging in like a 4-foot cedar or something in this cliff edge, or I was wrong. Right. So we're like, oh shit.
Your buddy's looking at you like, damn it.
Yeah,
Cliff.
he knows. He's like, and he's a much more experienced liar hunter than me. So he's like, now he's like lost all confidence in my opinion on this matter.
Yeah,
and
he's
now
like, we both know the actual answer here.
Yeah,
Cliff.
yeah. I'm like, dude, I'm still thinking like, dude, I'm pretty sure there's no cave. But anyways, so we actually drop off and we climb to the other canyon or the other side of the canyon to look. Like we just go across real quick, like 5-minute deal, because we got to see like where they're at. Because the other thing about this is like, this thing is steep as hell to get out of. Like we're assuming dogs are going to be up out of it, but now they're treed on this lion within 800 yards of the road. But that means they're still in this like, hand belly crawling type of canyon in 2.5-3 feet of snow type of deal. So we got to figure out how we're going to get to them. So we go over there, we look, and sure enough, like, we both look over and glass over and we're like, oh yeah, that's a cave. And the cave, the hole of the cave is like this big. Like it's tiny.
Like 2 feet.
Yeah. Like tiny under a rock. And you would have never known it was there, but the dogs had already gone in and out, right? So we're like, okay, we have to get over there, and we have to get over there in a hurry. And mind you, this took the dogs 5 minutes to get to that cave or less, right? Yeah. So we get in there, we get up off the road where we can see the cave, but it's like high angle above us. And we both immediately realize it's going to take us half hour, 45 minutes to get there, because just physically the snow's like total bitch, even though the dog's like just jammed up there. So as we progress up this hill, we just see these dogs and they're like taking turns, Michael, like they're outside, doing their thing, just having just a freaking joyous time, howling like crazy, but they're like cycling in and out of the cave, right? And as they cycle in and out of the cave, you start to notice like a little blood on the snow in front of the cave. And
I can just see your buddy just like mean mugging you for the whole 45 minutes. Like, damn it, Cliff.
Yeah, he was good at this point. It was what it was, man. Like we just want to get there, have a good situation. And the thing is, it's like, it's not like you don't know, right? Like just because there's a little blood or whatever. I mean, the dog's just pounding the snow, put some blood on this. So we don't really know, right? We're just kind of hoping for the best. And we get up there like 3/4 of the way. And he's really keeping track of the dogs that he's seeing out of there. And I can tell he's getting like stressed. And I know what it is one of the dogs we're not seeing. We're just not seeing the dog come out. All the others are rotating in and out, having just like the best time of their life. But one dog we have not seen come out of the hole.
Okay.
So we finally get up there. It doesn't look real bad, but there's some blood where they've been going out. They've been working the hole like a ton. And so we get down in there, and he's like, go in there, dude, and see what the deal is. So and we don't know how deep it is, anything, man. And I remember
Yeah.
I had a little 380. I actually had a little short barrel rifle, and then I had a little 380 pistol. And I was like, okay, I'll take that in there. And so I shimmy in there, and I got my headlamp on, and it's like it's a weird, like a lot of how these caves are, they stay real tight, like they stay tight for the first, like, I don't know, like maybe 4.5 5 feet, and that doesn't seem that deep, but like it's deep, man. Like that's your
Yeah.
whole,
That's
like,
getting past your
yeah,
knees.
like
Yeah.
my feet are still hanging out, but it's real scary, and so I
Oh
shimmy in
God.
there.
Especially knowing there's a cat in
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
No
yeah.
way.
I shimmy in there, and I can hear the lion. I can hear the lion. Like they tend to chill out. Like people think that they get, like, once they get to a safe spot, they'll kind of get like relaxed where they're not too worried. And you can hear them it's like a purr slash growl, but it'll like
Okay.
make your soul shake, man.
I
And
bet.
I hear that, but I can't see the lion. And the dogs are like coming over me. They're just having fun, like going in, checking online, run out, howl at their buddies, like, look what's in there, type of deal. But they're trampling me like as I go. And so I shimmy in there, and then I'm looking forward, and like I see nothing. And then I see, like, above on an inner bench, I see the eyes of the lion, and they're like looking at me weird, but they glare, like they pop off when I shine my light at them.
Yeah.
Had the glare, and I see her, but she's got her head down, right? And like in a weird position. I'm like, I don't really know what's going on, but I shimmy up, and now I'm talking like I'm within like 3 or 4 feet of her, but luckily the cave kind of opened up and she's above me, like above me.
That
And I
doesn't sound
look
lucky to
up.
me, but go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like at least she wasn't like,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I guess the lucky part is it wasn't tight. Like I could at
Yeah.
least like kind of move. And so my buddy the whole time is like telling me like, hey, man, like what's going on? And I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. And then I look up in there, and finally I got enough view at her, and I saw she had that dog. And she had that dog by the face, like right here. She had managed to get a hold of it and was holding it down into the rock. I thought, dog's dead. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I've never seen a dog. To be honest with you, to this day, I've never seen a lion dog get mortally wounded. I've seen them get cut up a little bit. This is the only time I've ever seen a cat get a hold of one. I've never seen one get killed by a lion.
Gotcha.
And so this was like, it wasn't like, it's not like I'm used to seeing this kind of contact, right? But I thought in my mind, like, that dog's dead, man. And I
Yeah.
told my buddy, I was like, dude, I don't know what to tell you, but she's got the dog. He goes, well, you got to get the dog. And I'm like, see, I can't get the dog. Like
Yeah.
I'm literally gonna, like, there's no way I can get the dog, man. I'm sorry. I think she's probably already killed the dog. And he goes, he's like, all right, get out here, dude. And I feel like a total bitch telling this story, because I couldn't do anything, right? He's like, get out here. And I was like, all right.
Cliff,
So
I wouldn't have gone in, so you got me
yeah.
beat. That guy's like,
So
go in there. I'd have been like,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, you go in there.
So I shimmy back out, and I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, man. Like I don't know what to tell you.
Did
And
you
he's
shimmy
like,
out head first, like going
no, no, no.
forward, or were you
I
like keeping
shimmied
your
back.
eyes?
I shimmied back out like this. I
Okay.
couldn't, there's not enough room in here to turn around.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like there's not enough room in here to turn around. The other thing that's crazy is, like, even though it's like there's tons of snow outside, moist environment, inside these caves, there's like a layer of bat shit that's like this deep. And
Yeah.
once the dogs have been in there, and once you start going in there, like visually, it's insane. And then like this is how you become like patient one for COVID-20, right? Like inhaling all this bad shit. So, anyways, like there's a lot of reasons this is not the most intelligent thing to do. But anyways, there's no way I can turn around. So I shimmy back, and he gets a hold of my feet, kind of gives, like, once you get like your knees out, you're good, right? So I shimmy back out. I'm like devastated. I kind of feel like a bitch, feel really bad for him, because it's one of his favorite dogs. And he's like, dude, I'm gonna go in there, and he's bigger than me, and so and I could tell he's a little more like claustrophobic. So he's like,
Yeah.
hold on, like get where you just make sure you can stay where you can get my foot. All right, all good,
Yeah.
man, go
As
for it.
another big guy, like small spaces are like one of my biggest
Yeah,
fears.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah. I don't like
regardless
them.
of
I mean,
throw a cat into a small space, you're
yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
talking not my language, Cliff. But
Yeah,
yeah, go.
yeah.
I get where your guy's
Here's
coming from.
the thing is though, is the thing is from my perspective, I'm doing this risk adjusted thing of like, okay, the dog's already dead in my mind. So I'm like, what are we gonna do? My buddy's thinking, I want my dog back. Like I don't want to admit that my dog is dead, right?
Yeah.
Because it,
Also, maybe he's got a little bit more experience, right? So,
oh
like you
yeah,
said,
a
you've done
lot
this a
more.
lot. You've never seen one actually mortally wounded. Maybe he's like, yeah, whatever, Cliff, get out the hole. Dog's
Yeah,
probably
sure.
fine.
Yeah. See what
Dog's
the
probably alive, maybe not
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. And so he goes in there and I'm down low, shining light over his back. I can see the lion and the dog from the hole now that I've got a different angle than he does. He goes in, dude, and I watch my buddy, Michael, like no shit, within, like we're talking like 2.5, 3, like an arm length. He reaches up, grabs the collar of the dog, like right around the GPS where there's like bulk to it, and he
Yeah.
grabs it and goes boom and pulls it, and the lion pops off the dog, like boom, pops off the dog, and immediately the dog is 100% alive and starts like jamming howls, like like not hurting, like I'm like let me
He's like,
back
all
in
right,
there.
it's go
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I'm like, it's like this amazing feeling because there's like this relief, but it's also like my buddy's in there, and like now the lion has nothing to keep its attention. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so he's fighting the fact that dog like wants wants to like get back into the game. And you can see the dog has got like a pretty good laceration on his face right here. And so I grab his feet, we get out of the hole, and the dog's like not gonna die. It's like a peel, you know what I mean? Which is
Yeah.
unfortunate. It needs to be taken care of, but the dog literally is going to like go back in there. So we get out, we decide like, hey, do we want to harvest the lion? At that time, I had never killed one. I've only killed 2 in my life, and I'm done killing them. But I had never killed one at that time. And maybe there was a little bit like I think maybe my buddy might have had like a little just like I don't know, like maybe animosity or like a little like just high. We were all pumped up, right? So it's like, well, the next thing seems to be to harvest this lion, right? And I don't know, this was an idiotic idea from both our perspectives, right? So, but my response was like, yeah, let's do it, man. Like, okay.
So you got him
like,
out of the hole with the dog, and that's when you're like, let's get this guy now.
Okay. Yeah. We hadn't even thought about killing the lion until then. And I think it was because we both just intuitively knew that if we shot it was probably going to be hard to shoot the lion without potentially shooting the dog. Like you got, this is like an intertwine of bodies, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it had not crossed our mind as that, because people, when I tell this story, people ask me like, why don't you shoot the lion? It's like, dude, this is like if you're in like somebody runs into your house and jumps on top of you and is wrestling with you, and you tell your wife to shoot the robber, right? Like, please don't shoot the robber, because
I was worried about your eardrums too, right? Like in a tiny cave. Oh my God.
This was something that I didn't think about at all.
Okay.
And so I was like, let's do it. So I get my little 380, I go in there, and I just hear my buddy in the background, whatever you do, don't let her out. Like, don't let her out. I'm like, okay, I won't let her out. And I get up in there and I see her, and now she's just like, now she's focused on me. And so with no thought process, not the best judgment, I shoot her. And immediately when I shoot her, I realize not a good idea at all. Because 2 things. One, what you just mentioned, like immediate, even though it's
ringing.
that's a really, it's a small caliber. It's much lower decibels than the vast majority of weapons I could have shot her with. Still, in that close environment, it's like boom, no hearing. And the other thing is the cat starts to roll, and go
Trying to figure
crazy.
out
And
what's bit it. Yeah.
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And the dust, like the dust cloud is like black, right?
Ugh,
Like just
just
black. And
bat crap
I can
dust.
feel the
Ugh.
movement, man. Like I can feel the movement of, of the lion rolling in there. I shoot once or twice more. Just I need to get it like done. And the whole time, my buddy's like, "Don't let it out of the hole. Don't let it out of the hole." And I'm like, dude, I wouldn't ready to let it run by me. I don't even think it physically could get by me.
Yeah, you're like, I'll grab it if it tries.
Yeah, yeah. But anyways, man. So then, like, you get the moment of silence, right? No struggle. Lion's dead. All good. Party's over. Get out. Like he pulls me back out. I don't have the lion, and I remember I come out of the hole. He's like, "You don't. What's like? You didn't grab the lion?" I'm like, "No, dude. I need like a chunk of relief here." So I shimmy back in there, grab it by the tail, get it out. Big lion. I was excited as the first lion I harvested. Still, we ate. It's actually the first lion I ever ate too.
Okay.
Which lion's actually pretty good. Still have the rug. Not like the biggest lion in the world. Didn't matter. Just like this to this day, like when I see that lion, it brings back this story. But the crazy thing about it is I remember just like getting out of the hole, getting the lion out, like just a relief of stress and everything else. And I just remember like looking at that dog, and the dog is like still pumped. Like it's running around the hole, going crazy, all of that. And so that's basically the story of my first lion hunt. But to top it off, the funniest thing was like 3 weeks later, I get a call from my buddy, and he's like, "Dude, you got a cough?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do kind of have a cough, like a respiratory thing."
Yeah.
And dude, like I don't think he realized it, but he was bringing it up to like the biggest hypochondriac ever, right? Like I'm always concerned about something. And I'm familiar with like these zoonotic diseases, particularly because I'm like in the nature of like where I was, it's a thing. Like in the I'm sure you heard about it, like living in Colorado too. There's this disease called Hanta that you get from mice turds, you get from bat
You got to
turds.
spray down the mouse turd
Yeah,
before you
yeah.
sweep it up.
Yeah, it's like serious, and it has like if you get it, dude, like you can die, or you're likely to die, right? And so we're both like, I think he's a little hypochondriac. I am too. Like now we like both are in like cold sweats that we think we have Hanta. Like I'm like looking up like research papers on like where do I need to go where they know like what this is and where they can take care of it and all of that. And then within 48 hours, we both realized it was just a cold. But it's kind of a funny thing, right? Like you go through the whole adventure and the excitement of something that, everybody's going to view as like, wow, that's crazy. And then there's this other part of your mind that's like, I'm going to get killed by inhaling
mouse poop
dust. Yeah.
Yeah. That's an awesome story, Cliff, man. Man, I can't even imagine. There's a whole bunch of points where I would have ended that story before it got to the point you got it to. I don't think there's any way you could have gotten me into that cave. No way.
Here's the thing though. I think it's an interesting deal because a lot of people probably listen to that story and they'd be like, that guy is an idiot, or he's like irrational about, managing risk or whatever. And it's funny because I think that the intensity of I have like thoughts about it because I think about it a lot. Like, and my wife when I tell that story, my wife's like, "Why would you do that?" And I'm like, "You're an idiot.
You're not allowed to hunt anymore."
Yeah, like you're putting yourself at risk. And even now that I reflect on it, I don't know. I mean, my buddy is like a very high level lion hunter. And I think seeing his like confidence in the situation, like that rubs off. It's not like peer pressure. It's just more like, okay, he has an understanding that this lion doesn't, and I've learned this since, generally lions don't want to get in a conflict with a person, and they really don't want to get in a conflict with a dog. And he knew that, I didn't. And so I think that, mitigated some of my choices in the situation. The dumbest choice I made by far was using the pistol in the cave. Just from the perspective of like the angle of it, the caliber, all that. Like I'm not like like judge myself on that, but I would judge myself on the risk of damage to my hearing. Cause it's like,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
That like, I've never done it before and I don't think it registered, and it was a dumb mistake. That was a dumb choice because I could have messed up my hearing forever. Luckily, I don't think I have
For
any,
sure. For sure.
but
I fired a rifle just out in the open and then inside of like a fabric blind. And
yeah.
it's substantially louder inside of a
Oh yeah.
fabric blind. And so just like as soon as you said we went back in there to shoot it, I was like, oh God, his
Like
ears.
what
Like
an idiot.
I can't even imagine because I've
Yeah,
only my ears were ringing after shooting in a fabric blind, like in a cave. I
yeah.
can't even
But
imagine.
it's funny because I think you can get used to these things. Like I watch guys like the pig guys, the guys that they dog pigs, and
Yeah.
they're grabbing by the ears, they're grabbing by the back legs. Like, man, I've done a lot of pig hunting and been like in like like distant hairy situations with them. I look at those guys, I'm like, what in the world are you thinking, man? Like, you got freaking giant balls. There's a bunch of
Yeah.
guys down where you're at that's like what they live for, man.
Right. I had a 30-pound pig charge me once. I was terrified. And these
Oh
guys are doing it
yeah,
with,
dude.
200-pound
Yeah.
pigs. So
Oh
I get
yeah.
it.
Yeah, of
But
course.
I guess to your point, right? They just have a level of familiarity that they're like, no, I know the situation. I know how this is going to end. That maybe
Yeah.
you and I don't, or the average person
No,
doesn't.
yeah,
So
yeah. That's what I was long route getting to. Michael's like, I think that if I was with one of those guys that's does that all the time, I'd be
yep,
like, yeah, let's do it. If
you'd
I
be like,
was on
let's
my
grab some
own,
ears.
yeah, if I was on my own, like, no way. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
no,
Like it's always, I think for better or worse, like confidence is contagious. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. You just got to get the confidence that those dogs have. That's all.
Yeah. Well, that might be I mean, just imagine like the depth of that, dude. Like a giant apex predator holding you by the face for like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
And then your reaction is not to run away.
your reaction's like,
That's
let's
like,
go round two.
yeah. Like I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I would have a hard time going out of my house after that for a
Yeah.
year, let alone that. So it's amazing their resilience to that, dude.
Absolutely, man. Well, that was a great story, Cliff. Like that did not disappoint at all. I know that we have limited time. Do you have another one that you could sneak in the time that we have left, or do you want to call it right there? It's entirely up to you, my guy.
Dude, let's call it right there if you don't mind.
That
Because
no,
I
that
can't,
was one of the best stories I've ever
tell
heard. So
if I tell one in 10 minutes, I'll miss out on some detail that I want to tell people.
okay, okay. Well, yeah, I can
If it's
imagine
cool
that
with
you'll want
you.
to teach them something in the middle of the story. I get that.
That's a
All right,
fault
Cliff.
of mine, man. I don't know.
No, it's why I appreciate you. It's why I've been following you for such a long time, man. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to stay in touch and we're going to get you back on to maybe when you have
Yeah,
a
of
little bit
course.
more time. Who knows? Maybe I know that you go to Colorado often enough. I'm working to move back there. Maybe I'll buy you a beer and we can record something there. So,
Yeah,
Cliff,
cool,
thank
man.
you. Why don't you tell the people where they can find you, so they can
Yeah.
check out all your different awesome content you're putting out.
Yeah, man, you mentioned the biggest one is YouTube, and it's just my name, Cliff Gray, CliffGray. If you put it in the search bar, it'll pop up. And then Instagram, if you wanna keep in touch with me that way, and I try to keep that updated as much as possible. It's just Cliff CliffGray. It's missing an A there at the end. So yeah, those are people's best bets. So
Cool,
yeah,
man.
check me out on that stuff.
Awesome, Cliff. Well, thank you again. I really do appreciate it. Like I said, love what you do, and your story was amazing. And thank you very much for taking some of your Saturday here to chat with me, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, dude. Thanks for having me.
Of course. All right, guys, that's it. Another story in the books. I want to thank Cliff, of course, for coming on the podcast. Couldn't have done it without him. He's been someone I've wanted to get on the podcast for a long time, so I'm glad we were able to make some time, and hopefully we can get him back here soon. Like I said, that cougar story, that's going to stick in my mind for a while. I've already told it to a couple folks, and my eardrums are still ringing. So, Cliff, thank you for letting us have that story. And to you listeners, go out there and give Cliff a follow. Check out what he's doing. It's some great stuff. While you're doing it, go ahead and give us a follow on Instagram. And give us a review. 5 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars. I don't care. Just go out there, whatever you're listening to right now. Give us a review so that more people can find us, more people reach out, and we have more fun stories to tell. But that's it, guys. Thank you again. Hope you have a great day, and talk to you next week.